Is it hard to get gigs outside of conventions?
Gabe and I have done several concerts not related to conventions, and those are privately organized as any other thing. So people come to us with our agents, and they hire us to come in to perform for a symphony or our own music or whatever. So yeah, we do lots of gigs that are outside of conventions.
Yeah, I actually just right before BronyCon came from one in South Dakota.
Yeah.
So we do book gigs. Typically they're smaller because they only have one focus. So conventions are fun because you get a whole bunch of people because there's a lot to bring to the table, right? And so, yeah, but no, I wouldn't say difficult, but definitely different.
Yeah.
Anybody else, or is it still me?
Did you feel any pressure making your latest album?
I like to be a perfectionist, and I had big expectations for myself, and I'm really happy that we succeeded with our Billboard goal. We got on the top 100 US.
Congrats!
Thank you, yeah. In a couple of different categories, and that was a pretty cool achievement as an independent artist. So there was a pressure for that goal because it was, it seemed out of reach, and yet if we worked hard enough, we would reach it, and we did. So that was really nice. And the deadline too, the deadline was very intense. We wanted it done by June 1st. I wanted it done before I was 19, and we did a full professional album without a record label or anything like that to actually, help with all the administration. So me and my mom and my whole other team, we were just doing everything ourselves. So I was excited about the music, but yes, there's definitely a lot of pressure with the actual organization and technical stuff, right? Deadlines, yeah. But overall, I was really excited to release it.
What can you tell us about your Patreon?
My Patreon, well, to be honest, originally I didn't want to make one because I just kind of I don't know what I would do. I feel weird just give me money,
But it's not about that.
Right.
Yeah,
but a bunch of people asked me, and then have been asking me, when are you going to make a Patreon? I want to support you on Patreon. So I made one just to test it, but I didn't tell anybody about it, and people started finding it, and they started pledging. And one of my reward tiers was that, one of the earlier ones is that your name will be, I'll mention you at the end of my videos. And I was like, well, now I have to tell people about it because people have supported me. And so what I just try to do is I try to keep it personal, as much as I can. I'll upload behind the scenes stuff, outtakes. I'll try to post it's hard for me to do early releases because I usually release as soon as something is done, But I also release on Fridays, so usually I'll maybe upload to Patreon Wednesday or Thursday. But I also use the Snapchat type feature of Patreon a lot. I'll just say, hey guys,
I think for both of us, Patreon is not about really
Pocket money. It's more about funding a project.
Support at all. It's about having a platform that not forces us, but basically gives us a deadline and gives us people that we have to commit to do projects that we wouldn't normally have time for.
It has helped me.
Without Patreon, I don't think I would be able to do a music video every month because other things would get in the way. But because there's people that are supporting this, that are sponsoring this and wanting to make this happen, you have to do it. That's why you have to give yourself a deadline. You have to give yourself a schedule so that even if something else comes in between it, you have to do something to actually make it happen. So I think that's what it is for both of us. And just to have a connection with people who want to support us more closely and stuff. So it's cool. It's a cool platform for that, for sure.
But do you offer cookies like she does?
I can't make cookies. I get Oreos.
I'll get Oreos, and they're special Gabe Oreos. He'll open them and then lick them and then put them back in the case.
No, here's what you do. You take an entire bag, you lick one, then you throw it back in. Cookie roulette.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you'll never know. Right. Cookie roulette.
What songs in MLP have you done?
Oh goodness! All right, so there was
that new commercial's hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, that was fun. So I can actually kind of go a little in depth with this because I wasn't allowed to talk about this for a while, but I can now because of reasons. But so I got hired by Daniel to do. Well, first he hired me to do some other stuff, and then he enjoyed working with me, and we kind of became friends. So he hired me to do in our town. from, I think the season 5 opener, was it? And then also all the songs in Equestria Girls Friendship Games, and we recorded them all at once. So, and I'm the male vocals, so multiple layers of singing in different styles, you know, to make it sound like a group of people. And then after that, he hired me to do a solo on the Songs of Harmony CD. And then he cast me for the second Equestria Girls, but when I got there to do it, he was called by the powers that be. They found out that he hired me and they said, no, you can't hire him because of his association with the Brony family. And they also said, you can't tell anybody. So, and then they said to me, you can't do any pony related stuff on your YouTube anymore. So I was locked in this for many years, this position of I can't work on the show and I can't do My Little Pony stuff because I have worked on the show in the past. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is killing me. But things have started to change. I'm hoping, you know, I just did a commercial directly for Hasbro for My Little Pony. It came out yesterday, actually, on their YouTube channel, Full House.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, thanks. That's me. So I'm the vocals in that. But they actually came to me through my YouTube. They're like, oh, you're an impressionist. Can you do this? And so I'm able to talk about this now, which is nice because Daniel has been very, very kind. And he's tried to get me on as many projects as he can, but we're kind of, you know, we're kind of stuck on this front. So yeah, maybe more in the future, but that's all thus far.
What gives you inspiration?
You know, I find music very healing. And so whenever I'm in a intense emotional state, I find my go-to is to write. Whether I'm immensely happy or I'm immensely frustrated or upset about something, I find that I get the most inspiration when I'm at some height of the scale. I'm either low down or high up, right? When I'm in the middle, I'm kind of content and I don't feel the need to express as much. But I find, you know, those moments, or also when I'm in a different area, when I'm in a different environment. I don't write well when I've been doing the same thing, trapped in my own, you know, home or my bedroom or something. Like, I write very well when I travel or when I go outside or when I go, even just going down to my basement, like taking, you know, the 2 levels down to just be in a different space. I find that's where I write because I don't, when I'm kind of in my normal state, I don't think I write nearly as much.
I agree with
Yeah, totally. And I write about things that are really important to me, whether it's personal or it sounds personal but isn't, or it's just kind of a general theme that I think, you know, society needs to be more thoughtful with. And I try and deal with big subjects but make them personal, but also universal. I like to talk about that balance. It's a hard balance to strike.
It is, and I agree with all of that. My side of things, I usually get inspired by something that I already like, or something that motivates me, and then I want to write something based on that, but also again universally relatable. For me, I tend to try and consistently focus on the positive because of how much negative, like being in the military and touring and seeing the kind of stuff that I've seen and going.
Yeah, I come from a military family.
Yeah, so you get it. There's things that you see that make you really, really appreciate where you are and what you have. And without discrediting or pretending not to acknowledge the negative, the best thing that I think that people can do is focus on the positive, because you learn, especially when you travel the world, you go to countries where things are really actually bad, you realize that it's going to be much harder to change the world than it is to change the perception of the people who are in those situations. And so I try to take my music and say, yes, stuff has been bad, stuff can be bad, let's try to focus on the positive if we can't fix the negative, or at least not. So that's...
What's been the positives and negatives of being on social media?
I'll just say quickly, I think social media is a great way for people to interact with those that they look up to, and there's many, many benefits. But at the same time, I don't dislike social media because I dislike communicating with people that support me, and I enjoy conversing with them. But it's very overwhelming, right? Sometimes social media, you have to do it, but at the same time, you wish you didn't have to. You know what I mean? I'd rather just talk to people in person and come to these every every 2 weeks or something, and just catch up then instead of always, because you kind of always have to do it, or else if it's not consistent enough, it doesn't really make an impact.
And this world moves so fast.
Yeah, so you're like, oh, I'm in a waiting room, like I've got to do that, and then you feel guilty when you're like, I had time today, but then I forgot, and then there's multiple platforms.
Yeah.
So, overall, I would say, yes, I do like social media, but I wish I didn't have to do it sometimes. You know? Yeah.
Completely agree. Social media gives everybody a chance to be heard, but then also everybody's talking. It's like all of a sudden everyone has a soapbox. When everyone's super, no one will be. So you got to do, what you can to stay on top of things. The thing that I find difficult is it opens you up to scrutiny and conjecture. And people know a little bit about you, and then they think they know everything about you, and they take something that they've heard and they spin it into a story, and before you know it, you have groups of people who really love you and groups of people who really hate you. And you gotta kind of go, some of it's really hurtful, and you gotta go, do I try and defend myself? I've learned no. Because
Gabe learned that.
yeah, as soon as that happens, then they'll take things out of context. They'll even Photoshop stuff. Man, there's stuff that I never even wrote that's out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, learn my lesson, back off. But yeah, aside from the negative though, it's enabled me to do a job that was never possible until like the last 20 years of history.
It's true.
And so I absolutely love it. I owe my career to it. So yeah.
And now a question for Mama Creber.
You're a child, yeah.
You missed me. I thought you knew because you were just kind of saying that. I was like, oh.
How do you prepare a child for the entertainment industry?
I think one of the most important things is keeping them grounded. Mm-hmm. So, because Michelle was so interested and so self-driven at a really early age to be in the entertainment industry, that's what she grew up with. Her parents are both performers, and she told a story yesterday how she, ran on the stage of this 3,000 seat theater in Vancouver, massive stage, and my mom had to struggle to keep her in her seat. And I said, Mom, if she really wants to come up, let her come up for the finale. And there's this tiny little body booking it across the stage to jump into our arms. And anyway, so she was really self-driven. But I noticed, early on when she did film and TV, especially, that there's this whole hierarchy in the entertainment industry where, you'd walk in and that sometimes the people who were the crew were not being treated very nicely, and then the people that were the actors or the stars of the show were being, treated like royalty. And
especially
right away,
common in film and TV.
Yeah, right away I was like, okay, no, this is not good. She needs to know right away that everybody here is equally important and they all have a job to do. And just because your job is one in front of the camera, you are no more special than, you might be more recognized and more, more attention will be paid to you, but that doesn't mean that you are a more important person, and everybody should be treated equally. So I think that's one thing. And the other thing we talked about at the earlier panel is they really, and Gabe and Michelle both been doing this their whole lives, and his mom and I have talked extensively about this, preparing them for rejection. Mm-hmm. Rejection is huge. You have to audition for things all the time.
Our careers
all
are
the time. They are always auditioning for things.
It's not perfect.
And you lose many, and a lot of times you lose them for really invalid reasons, like, oh, you're associated with,
You're associated with the family.
Yeah, you can't do it. Or, you are the best for this role, but you have blue eyes, and the people we cast as your parents
we don't want to use contacts, and you don't look like the sister.
Yeah, you're too short,
you're
you're
too
too tall. Anyway, so there's
You're
all
2
these
inches tall. We both put, you're 2 inches tall.
and keeping them, the final thing would be keeping them, the part of the grounded is keeping them real in terms of understanding that what's still most important is not what people say about you on social media, not what the press writes about you, but being real with your family and your friends, and not letting it go to your head, that you are a regular person who has a job that can be really fun and really out there, and it has its pitfalls at times, but what's really important is your foundation, your family, your friends, and just keeping that real. And
no one can earn or deserve a fan. That's a gift they give to you.
It's a gift, yes, and it's a responsibility.
Yeah.
That's the other
Absolutely.
thing. I think understanding if you have influence, you have great responsibility.
Great responsibility.
Yeah.
Right?
Long answer. Sorry.